fight at the White House. Doesn't mean you endorse foreign policy. Like, shut the up.
You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
All right, so Rogan talked to this guy, Chase Hughes, on his podcast the other day. This is the first time that Rogan has brought up the UFC fight that he was a part of over the weekend, to my knowledge at least. And so I want to get into that, his thoughts on that. And this guy that he's talking to, interestingly, I don't know anything about him. I don't really care about him. But he is supposedly a Psyop expert that has written books about Psyops, how to psychologically profile people, etc. He's done a lot of work in that space, built up a large audience, all that. Doesn't really seem to have any accreditation. He says in this interview that he's going to be like sent to do Psyop training for like the military or something, or some factions like that. I don't know. This dude doesn't seem to be like an actual expert on this, other than just having accrued a large audience and being able to seem kind of smart about it, but not really. He also seems really into psychedelics, and that's a decent amount of what they talk about here. This guy has also written like pickup artist books about how to attract women and like the psychology of that. So I don't know, just a grifter, fake expert type of guy. And I mean, he has some interesting things to say here, but it's like the type of pseudo expert that Joe Rogan loves. And they have one of those type of conversations. It's very brain fried. They're just talking about psychedelics and the universe, man, and how it's like all one and it's all blah, blah, blah. It feels pretty classic Joe, but then it ties in not just with like right-wing politics, attempted critiques of left-wing politics, sort of, but also this very highly tense moment that we have right now, where for a lot of people, especially on the right, the concept of a psyop is very relevant. The right feels psyoped pretty much all the time from all directions. So that's what I want to get into here, is a little bit of what Joe had to say about this UFC fight, as well as their conception of psyops in this moment and why they're really just using that as a tool to further tear apart people's understanding of the world. So here's the first clip of him talking to Chase Hughes about his UFC fight over the weekend at the White House.
Somehow or another, the storm just like almost like went around the White House. I mean, I don't know.
Mysteriously.
I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's science or if that's consciousness. I don't know what steered the storm, or if it's just random luck. It could have been all of the above. But all my fears of the weather getting in the way of the fights were null. It was insane. It was insane. Just the magnitude of it was insane.
Unlike anything else you've ever done.
Beyond. I mean, I'm a hyperbolic individual, and I'm always like, this is the greatest, this is awesome. Like, that was the wildest experience that I've ever had. The main event was the greatest fight of all time. It literally was the greatest fight of all time. And it's so many people are trying to make it a partisan thing, like they're mad at people for being there, like, oh, you support Trump. Like, it's a fucking fight at the White House. Yeah. Doesn't mean you endorse foreign policy. Like, shut the fuck up.
That's too much.
Just please stop. And again, it's this thing, the ego thing, where people are they just want so badly. And on both sides, for sure. You know, the right celebrates this as a win for masculinity and patriotism and all these different things. Like, okay, settle down. Everybody settle down. Yeah. We should all be together. And, I mean, one of the things that I wanted to do when we went to the White House to try to push through psychedelics for therapy for veterans and people, you know, first responders, people struggling with PTSD, is you need to take these steps to give people a path to change their mind. Exactly. I think that's the title of Michael Pollan's book, and it's a great way to describe it. Change your mind.
Yeah.
Like, change your whole perspective.
Okay, so this is the basic premise here, and you know, I appreciate that he criticizes the right's willingness to use things like this as like masculinity, a win for masculinity. But like, what else is it? What else is the point of it? And he doesn't mention here the guy who stood in the ring and said Michelle Obama is a man, and we all knew it. And that was when Rogan was holding the microphone. He did pull it away from him, but, you know, he was all smiles the whole time. And that is straightforwardly the type of culture that they have created there. So would have been a good thing for Joe Rogan to come out and say that, like, he doesn't approve of that. A lot of people did. A lot of people said they didn't like that, like Shane Gillis when he was asked, and others came out without being asked and said that they, you know, don't condone that sort of thing. And so I'm not going to try to trap Joe Rogan into that to say that like he feels that and he agrees with it just because it was said next to him. But it's certainly a part of this spectacle that he is also a part of, that he has nothing but positive things to say about. So he has no critiques for that aspect of this giant, amazing, incredible fight that has been set up on the White House lawn for the sake of, and somebody who he talked to recently, a friend of his on this very same podcast, said that this exact fight seems like a psyop to distract the type of people who are interested in UFC and that type of masculine sports, whatever, from the type of things that have been concerning them about the administration, like Israel and Trump's capitulation there, going to war in general. So Rogan never really acknowledged that. And he would always be quick to point out that anything a White House does in terms of media or influencers or anything like that is clearly with political intentions. If you don't want to use the word psyop, because that certainly gets overused, not in the title of this video or anything, but certainly with political intentions. And so Rogan has decided that his political intentions align with the political intentions of the White House, or at least the political opportunity of the White House, enough that he is going to turn a blind eye to a lot of the things that he knows wouldn't fly under any other circumstances. And he is willing to lightly criticize the Trump administration, but clearly has a favorability towards Trump in general and a lot of the policies, a lot of the general tone of politics, back to the Michelle Obama thing, that Trump has created. Rogan has fully embraced that. So in this next part, you're going to see how truly fried Rogan is these days, where he's talking about, this is something I've gestured at a few times and haven't really addressed head on, but he thinks that the direction of technology and even plastics, he says here, is pointing us all towards this almost transhuman vision of society. And he even lumps transgender people in with that he thinks the kind of gender mixing that he characterizes the current era of being is kind of just like the future of humanity. It's just humanity evolving alongside AI and plastics and all of this. So a bizarre slop style worldview, but just to give you a sense of that.
I think everything is nature. And I think this idea that this artificial communication that we've developed through social media is what's really fucking everybody up, I don't think that's the case. I think this is a natural progression of nature. The idea that our stupid fucking creativity and intuition and technological ingenuity, it can bypass nature, I think is horseshit.
It is nature.
It is nature.
Yeah.
And I think nature is creating this convergence. It's creating this very bizarre convergence of humans and artificial intelligence through a bunch of ways that are unproductive and a bunch of ways that are productive, but all of it like gathering together in a device that's like almost impossible to resist. If there was anything else that you use 6 hours a day or 8 hours, if you're a good person, if you're good with it, like a lot of kids are on 7, 8, 9 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like if there's anything else like that, you would think that person's got a horrible addiction. But for us, we've accepted it as a normal part of society. And that, whatever that interaction with it that we have, that deep connection we have, is only going to get deeper. And it's ultimately going to lead to some sort of hive mind. And it'll probably not be a hive human mind only. I think it will be a human AI hive mind. And I think one of the things that's happening to us is there's this weird like movement to discredit traditional femininity and traditional masculinity, and there's this bizarre over celebration of outliers, of weird gender people, of people that are confused with their gender. And I think that's because if you play that out, this is a new thing. Again, I'm an old man, but when I was a young guy, there was cross-dressers, there was guys that got off on wearing women's clothes. There was always stuff like that. There's always been people with gender dysphoria, but there was never like this. And this is also coming at a time where microplastics are disrupting our endocrine systems.
Big time.
Big time. So testosterone levels are dropping. We're like, oh my God, it's a crisis. What do we do about it? It's natural. our use of plastic is probably
okay, so this
natural.
is where I don't understand. I'm almost inclined to see what he's talking about here. I think he sneaks in a couple things. First of all, the idea that AI is something other than incredibly fast and powerful computers that are able to sort of mimic human speech or appear to do things similar to thought, not actually doing some kind of intelligence or consciousness. Rogan has fully bought into the idea that we are interacting with another form of consciousness. Aside from that, I can understand this idea that it's all sort of adaptive and all of it is nature, right? Even all these incredibly harmful to nature things that we do, it is all just like what happened on Earth, right? So in a sense, I can understand that. But I don't understand if he believes that the gender fluidity is a part of that evolution of humanity. I don't get why he has such a problem with it. And maybe this is a new worldview that he's formulating that will sort of alter his idea, his fear, his transphobia towards the like gender bending that he talks about a lot on his platform. But it seems to me that he wants to both view it from this wise guru type of perspective, but also still harshly criticize any type of treatments or programs that affirm trans people and their gender, and just will criticize the idea of gender dysphoria. Even the way he characterizes it here is still kind of characterizing it as perverts that just get off on the idea of dressing up as women or something, which is commonly how he discusses trans people. That's what he was yelling at Steve-O about a few months back. And so I want to get to the part of all of this that is the Psyop, because regardless of what the setup is, you know, how much coordination there is between the White House, I mean, he's essentially a mouthpiece for the White House at this point. He says more positive things about Trump than most other people, even supporters of his, are willing to say. And that's where this entire thing, this framework that he presents, you know, becomes a blatantly partisan thing. And his presenting his own worldview as some kind of centrist worldview or politically homeless or above psyops in some sense, discussing the prevalence of psyops while also heaping praise on the White House for hosting a public sporting event, while also criticizing the idea of government in general. So that's what they get to in this next part, and that's where I want to kind of break down the hypocrisy of the worldview here.
That woke up normal people. That woke up average people.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was so obvious.
Woke up a lot. Some of them, like, they just can't shake them. They're on 15 Ambiens. Fucking...
Yeah.
They're going to stay.
I've got family members that are very trustful of government. And they're like, no, Chase, if it was going to go bad or if it was this thing, they would tell us. And I was like, these are the people who gave you the food pyramid.
Right.
And told you to eat 16 loaves of bread every day.
and yeah, it's the idea that the government is here to help you. It's like, that's the dumbest.
That was Reagan's best line.
Yeah. That they're the five. Yeah. We're the government and we're here to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's interesting how people will believe in the government if it is convenient, but then if the other people are the government, then it's 100% negative.
Yeah.
It's like people are so ideologically captured. And that's why people are completely unwilling to look at anything positive that one of the other members, someone from the other side, proposes.
Exactly.
Which is what I found really fascinating about the response to the Trump thing. You know, that Trump passing the psychedelic initiative and trying to push through ibogaine and psilocybin and all these different methods that people have used to overcome addiction and treat all these different things that we talked about before. They didn't know what to do with that. That was a weird one because they tried to find all sorts of negatives. I saw people trying to find negatives.
Because it's him.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is so crazy.
And there was also negatives because it was pushed by
So
me.
yeah, I mean, this is classic right-wing framing when it comes to government. And that's why this guy, to me, has absolutely no credibility, because he's talking about psyops and, you know, how it's used to emotionally manipulate people. And yet in this part, he is clearly coming from a right-wing perspective. And at best, you could say that he is tailoring his message in this instance to appeal to what he knows is a right-wing audience, both in Joe Rogan and the people that watch him. Although I would bet that probably his content in general is pretty right-leaning, because this idea of like, okay, trusting the government, and they're talking about COVID there. And he's saying that COVID was a time when people woke up and realized not to trust the government. And so I get that premise. And if we feel like the origins of COVID were obscured and maybe it was part of some government program and then it got loose and they lied about it and had an interest in covering up those programs, etc., and also covering up their incompetence in dealing with a pandemic that they potentially created or helped create, I could maybe get on board with that. But the thing is that guys like Rogan have turned it into a critique of the concept of government ever intervening in any instance in a public health capacity ever. And so when they're saying that people have woken up and this, has made me realize how corrupt the government is, they're saying that the idea that there would be any public health response to COVID at all is the fundamental problem with government, and that what we should be aiming for is a society that does not appeal to the authority of scientists to the end of serving the public good in general. And I say that because consistently Rogan's worldview and his critiques align with a right-wing worldview that government involvement in regulation or in trying to shape law or policy is the problem and not profiteering. So he'll point to big pharma companies or big agriculture as the problem, but it's always government that is the overarching issue and not profit incentive on the part of those companies. And so, to achieve the type of world that Rogan claims that he wants, what you would need is a hierarchy of authority that is based on democratic institutions and institutions that have democratic interests. And so the only way that you can create that is to have a government and an administrative state that is powerful enough to cut against the ability of companies to essentially run the government, invest in politicians, money in politics, all this stuff that Rogan acknowledges as a problem. But if you don't give the government the ability to regulate, the ability to enforce regulations, and if you, instead of trying to cut against the trust people have in Elon Musk or Donald Trump, blatant capitalists who are blatantly cutting the red tape for capitalists to rob the taxpayers, running off with contracts and getting lucrative government deals from Trump. But instead of that being the problem is when governments want to step in and regulate and want to impose rules, laws, restrictions in the interest of democratic public health. And the reason capitalists and rich people like Joe Rogan don't care about that is because they don't think they need you to be healthy in order for them to survive and their kids to survive. They don't think that your kid's dying of measles means their kid is going to die of measles. Or if polio comes back, they feel they'll be able to protect themselves and their family, and they don't care if you get it. But that's not how it works. And the worldview of Rogan is that we should allow people who are not experts, like this guy, to have as loud or louder of a voice than people who have risen to the top of institutions that are sometimes flawed in their hierarchy for sure, but also are designed to create the best public interest. And capitalist grifters, people who are selling fucking courses online, are not the people who have the public's interests in mind, just like big pharma doesn't have the public interest in mind. They have profits in mind, and that's why there has to be an orientation towards the public good, the public health, and that's where the psyop is with Joe Rogan. That's where he's tricking you, is that in this sort of vague republicanism, you're gonna get a reaffirmation of your rights as a citizen, and that's just never what the right wing wants.